Hello, my name is Ben Chambly, and this year in ISM I'll be studying audio engineering. I started off studying, I was going to do music production at first, but I realized that music production is a subdivision of audio engineering. As I went through studying this, I learned that audio engineering is really broad. It covers film score, post-production, music production, and any other thing that has to do with technology and music working together cohesively. So I started off this year by doing, here's my quote, actually I changed it up. My quote for this year is, "A bird does not sing because it has an answer, it sings because it's a song." It's by Chinese proverb. And this quote is kind of diminishing in value to me, actually. I started off with this quote because a bird does not sing because it has an answer, it sings because it's a song. Sorry, but I didn't know what to do, like, with ISM. I thought I was just doing it for fun. I'm singing just because I had a song. But as I go along with ISM, I'm learning what I want to do and what I want to study in college. And it's really great because I started off and just was confused, but now this quote's becoming like less meaningful to me. But I still keep it around because I can see where I started and how far I've come from just this. What is audio engineering, first of all? Like I said before, it's anything to do with music and technology. It could be editing, arranging, and composing. Those are all in softwares that work in computers. This could be producers, people who work in studios and make music like you hear on the radio. Technicians who come and repair the speakers at your house or make the movie theater speakers and all that stuff. Then there's composers who use things like Sibelius, Finale, and make like large compositions. For my research this year, I did 5 research assessments, but I condensed one of them into one of the bubbles over there. So the first one I did was analog versus digital recording. I started off in ISM thinking that you could just do digital recording on softwares like the one I used, Logic Pro X, Logic Pro 10. But digital is not the only way you can record audio. Just like with cameras, you can do it with a digital camera or with one of those older cameras that print on paper. I don't know what those are called. But the analog recording is basically recording on tape with little indentations, and they represent the wavelengths of sound. So when you're recording, it'll like put little indentations into the tape and it'll just keep going. And when you want to stop, you cut the tape, trim it off, or you can merge tape together too. And it's really cool, actually. That's what I did back then. And it's actually sounds really well. Like all the vinyl records, they have this warm sound that really can't be achieved by digital. But the only problem is it's incredibly expensive. The machines are massive and the tape is very expensive to receive the precise indentations and the wavelengths for that. Digital, on the other hand, it's easy. Anyone can do it because it's just in your computer. You just type in and use your mouse or something, and you can just write music. But it's just kind of plain and monotonous. Like, it's perfect audio, but it doesn't have that warm sound that analog produces. Analog is like the vintage sound that everyone really wants to get. For the next one, I talked about delay. And delay, it just seemed kind of boring at first. Like, just like, oh, I'm just putting this off, just delaying it. But actually, delay can make a song much more interesting. If you take a melody or a motif in a song and you can add some delay on it using either a software or by stretching it out on tape, you can make like musical build-up that makes the song much better. And it can like turn something so simple into a broader motif and makes the song actually, I already said better. It makes the song better, and it also gives you like a recurring motif that can like, it can be enhanced by delay. And then I talked about gain staging and DAWs. Now, gain staging is really interesting to me because I went into audio engineering, and I wanted to learn about how like it was related to math. And what gain staging is taking an instrument and plotting it on a coordinate graph. So you have your x-axis, your y-axis, and your z-axis. What you do when you gain stage is, let's say you're trying to make a band on the stage. So you have your singer, your drummer, your guitar player, your bass player. What you want to do is you want to make it so that when they listen to it, it's like they're in the concert. They're listening to them on stage. So you'll put the drummer farther back in the z-axis. You'll put him way farther because like the drummers are farther back. They set the time. A guitar player will probably be to the right over on the x-axis. And the bass player, you're going to push him back and put him farther left in the x-axis. And for the singer, you put him in the middle. And like it really allows you to make some really cool combinations. And also, you can record separately for precision. So instead of just doing one big session and one guy messes up, you have to do it all over again. You can do the bass player, the guitar player separately, and then you can just put it on this coordinate graph and like make it sound like one cohesive song. Then I talked about recording different instruments. This is where I did 2 research assessments in this bubble. I did first recording brass and woodwind instruments because I had to record someone's college audition on French horn, and it was a really big challenge to me because I've never actually recorded anything other than vocals. And so when I just did French horn as a vocal, it sounded terrible. So I looked up how you record French horn differently from vocals. And every instrument has a different approach from being recorded. For the French horn, you have to put a small mic in front of it, and then about 20 feet or so back, you put a larger microphone because the French horn's, what do you call it? The bell points backwards. And if you just put a microphone right in front of it, you're not going to get the ideal sound. So I researched French horn, then I researched woodwinds like clarinet and flute and stuff, and they're different too. For the flute, you have to put just one microphone above it, and it gets a good sound. Clarinet's really complicated, actually. It involves 3 microphones, 1 below and 2 above. And then I did vocals because I had like a brief understanding, like a small understanding of vocals, but I never like went and do it on a larger scale. For vocals, you actually have to put a mic at like a certain distance from the mouth, and you have to make it so it like lines up with where they're talking, because most people don't sing straight. They sing like all over. It goes in like this conical shape all around, like with spit and stuff, and it's gross. But that's why you have pop filters to capture the spit. And when you have a pop filter in front of a mic, it's like, here's the mic, here's the filter. What the filter does is it like makes it so the spit and all the extra wind doesn't touch the microphone, and so when you have like p and m, it'll just sound like crisp. And what I learned from this is that before I record any instrument, whether it be drums, bass, guitar, or anything, I should research it, because if I approach recording a drum set like recording a clarinet, I'll have a very interesting experience. Now I'm going to go on with my interviews. My first interview was with Marcus Chaney at Luminous Sound in Dallas. Basically, this was a kind of a fundamentals interview for me. I had never been to a studio before or anything like that, and it was really great. The facility they have at Luminous Sound is wonderful. It's very expensive, because Luminous, I didn't know going in there, but they've worked with some pretty renowned artists. They work with Lil Wayne, Beyonce, and there was someone else, Lil Wayne, and someone else, but they're actually way up there. They have several Grammys in there, and Marcus actually let me touch one of the Grammys, and it was really cool. And what I learned from that one is like, audio engineering is really cool, but it's really hard to get a job. Once you have a job, though, you can stick with that job. But like Marcus, what made him stand out was most people who want to be audio engineers go to Full Sail University, which is like a technical college that teaches you all the intricacies of it. But Marcus, he didn't go to Full Sail, he just got an internship over at a different studio, and that gave him the experience he needed. And so when he wanted to go to a higher up studio, Luminous called him and said, hey, I see you have that experience from the interview, you want to come work for us? And now he's the head audio engineer there. So he told me that when you want to be an audio engineer, it's all about the experience that makes the difference. My next interview was with Matt Kennedy at Audio Dallas. He's not the head audio engineer, he's the assistant audio engineer. At Audio Dallas, they're fully analog there. They have these massive tape machines and these big wheels that like roll the tape. They only work with artists because artists, like musicians and bands, want to pay for analog because they want the vintage, warm vinyl sound. So he kind of showed me how analog worked. It's really confusing, but it was really cool. Like, one of my goals for this year was to actually like record something analog or work with analog, because it's really cool, and if you understand it, I think like you can really do anything with audio engineering, because what a DAW is just a simplified version of analog. So if you know analog, you can do a digital thing too. Then I went to Matt Islanian, who was Matt Quijada's mentor last year when he did music production. This one, it was my first time driving on the highway, and I got really scared. And so I was late to this interview because I was driving like 60 and the speed limit was like 80. And I was just in the right lane, and it was pretty bad. But I had 30 minutes with him, and I talked to him about mentorship he did with Matt and how his experience was. And he told me, like, if you want to get a mentor, You just have to be persistent. Matt emailed Matt like 4 or 5 times asking to be his mentor, and he finally agreed just because he knew Matt really wanted it. So he said if you want to get a really good mentor, you just have to keep asking them. And I also learned about his facility, which is also very nice. Then I interviewed David Burt. Well, actually, prior to interviewing David Burt, I emailed like 6 or 7 people, and none of them emailed me back. It was just a period of just no interviews and no one emailed me back, and it went on for like 2 months, and it was terrible. But then I finally found David Burt, thanks to Coach Goff. He's a freelance audio technician. He used to work at the Frisco Discovery Center, but now he just does whatever he likes. We met up at a Starbucks, and that was nice. We talked about freelance and how that really worked. That was been the main focus point. And after that interview, freelance sounded really interesting to me. Just the fact that you didn't need to be bound down to any company or anything. You could just, oh, I want to teach a class this day. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, I want to record a band this day. Let's do that. You can kind of do whatever you want. But then I learned as I went on with Dave how it's really hard to continue doing a freelance because you have to like plan your week out and how you have to just make sure you meet a certain quota of money every week. But also we talked about audio technician and how like he's a kind of a tech guy and he'll fix things, but he's also worked with music and how technicians are actually really critical to the audio engineer because if you can make music, that's cool, but if you don't know how the technology works, you really can't do anything. That brought me to Jocelyn D'Souza. He's a really big music guy. What made him stand out was the fact that he had a commercial made for an Italian football game, and it was a 10-second commercial, and he made $1,000 for every second that it played. So I was like, oh dang, that's awesome. He says he got really lucky with that. So he made it big, got $10,000, and now he can kind of do whatever he wants because he's like rich. So he just composes his own music. He doesn't really work with audio engineering anymore, but he does like he used to when he was doing those commercial stuffs. He says commercial audio engineering is like where you make the money, but composition is like where the fun part is. So he says a good audio engineer has like a 60-40 balance of 60% being commercial and 40% being musical. My final interview was with Patrick Thompson, who is a film score composer and audio engineer. After Jocelyn, composition sounded really cool to me, so I talked to a film score composer, which is one of the careers you can do with composition and audio engineering. He was an interesting character. We met up at a Starbucks really far away, so we talked about how film score like incorporates both audio and musical aspects, and it sounds really interesting. He worked with someone who did the film score for The Dark Knight. And what they did was they took a razor blade and played a violin with it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And he says with film score, you can kind of do whatever you want as long as it sounds good. And how that incorporates to audio engineering is how you're going to capture that audio. You have to have film score composers and film score technicians too to help you capture those sounds, like Foley recorders. Like if you want to get a horse sound, but you don't have a horse, you can just get horseshoes and tap on the dirt. Which sounds really cool, how making fake sounds out of other things, trying to emulate real things. I zoomed in on that. And then finally, I chose David Burt as my mentor. Because he's a freelance audio engineer, it gives me variety. And I can I've been doing lots of things with him. Our first thing that we did was we ran a sound for a comedy show in Louisville. And that was fun because we just got to work the mixing board and laugh at some jokes. And it was really fun. Now I'm kind of helping him out with teaching his Audio Engineering 1 class at Collin College, and I'm kind of his teacher's assistant, which is really cool. He lives in Frisco, so it's really easy to find him and work with him because I don't have to drive very far. And also, he's a technician, so I'm very musical oriented. So the fact that he's a technician, he can teach me a lot about how the technology works, because I kind of understand the music stuff and how chord progressions and stuff works. But the technology is where I fall short. He can show me how it all works, and I thought we just worked well together. For my original work this year, I wanted to do a picture here, but it wouldn't let me load JPEG images, so sadly, just have words. I work at Kroger, and one of my friends is named David Hinch, and he is kind of an independent filmmaker. He enters his films in these UIL contests, and he gets graded on them, and it's a really cool thing. So for his next film, called The Moments, he asked me, hey, are you good with music? And I said, sure. He said, do you want to make a film score for my movie I'm doing? And this really excited me because it was one of the first actual audio engineering gigs I got to do. And some of the challenges I faced during it were the fact that starting off, he just said, "Oh, I want it to sound like this, and I want it to sound like this," but he never gave me any film. So I was just making music based on what he wanted it to sound like. And by the time he sent me film, I had about 20 to 25 minutes worth of music. It all sounded pretty good. And it was like an 8-minute film. So I had to like chop it up, and I had to like rush to finish it because he gave me the film 2 days before the original work was due. So I was freaking out. And I'm actually very pleased with the results. I wish I could show you the movie, but there's 2 other presentations, so I don't have time. And it was really cool just to like, my favorite part about the movie was when the credits scroll down and like you could see your name on the credits. Like, it's just an independent movie, but it was just a really cool feeling to see that all my hard work went and paid off for this really, the movie's bad, but the music is good. And it kind of improves it. And it was really cool to see how that, like, what he gave me, the rough draft, like, it was really bad. But once I put the music in it, it actually gave it like character, and like, I liked it. Like, it was an interesting experience. For my final product this year, I want to do an original album made by me, 8 to 10 songs. I'm going to work with various genres, like I have the set list planned out, and I have some really cool combinations. I'm doing a Spanish rap with Michael Geraldo Santana, an Oriental rap with Alan Hu, Matt Heyhata, and David Dong. I'm also going to do some experimental things, like one of the songs I did for the movie. It's really synth heavy, and so I'm going to build on that. Another thing I'm doing is my dad's printer plays this little melody. It goes like da 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 da, like whenever it prints something, and it just bothered me for a while, but I've grown to love it. So I'm gonna turn it into a song. It's gonna be amazing. And also, for one of the final songs I'm doing, our assistant band director, Mr. Belletti, plays saxophone, and he's famous for having these chops. So I'm gonna make this song called "The Chops Don't Lie." It's gonna feature Mr. Belletti. I hope I can get him to agree to it. If the song is good enough, I'm gonna feature him as a saxophone player. So I'm gonna work with local artists and friends like Mr. Belletti and Matt Heyhata. My plans for college right now are to double major in music and mechanical engineering, because like I learned from my interviews, mechanical engineering is like one of the most versatile degrees to have, because you can kind of do anything with mechanical engineering. So if I want to pursue this career field, it'll be nice to have a mechanical engineering degree and know how everything works. Challenges I'm facing with this year, there's 88 days left. After my college edition, I'll have like 70 days to make an album. So hopefully that works out. I really want to make a product that I'll be blown away by. And that's one of my goals, is to make a product that just I can keep listening to for years and years, and I'll still be proud of it. All right, thank you very much.